The Agenda with Michael Knight on News Radio 560 KPQ and KPQ.com.
And at 10 minutes past 1 o'clock, let's meet our special guest. He's the candidate for the U.S. Senate. His name is Clint Tannehill, and he grew up not so far from here near Spokane. Welcome, candidate Tannehill, to KPQ. Nice for you to come in today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
What in the world got into you? Why do you want to be the U.S. Senator? What happened? You woke up one day and said, I'm running for office.
That is the question. That is the question. Well, I woke up a couple of years ago and decided I wanted to run for a political office. After spending a couple of years studying the political system, this office was coming for election, and it became time to run.
Let's back up a bit and talk about your birthplace. Where were you born?
I was born in Spokane, Valley General.
And what neighborhood did you grow up in?
I grew up in Hilliard, northeast Spokane.
And that's still your home?
No, I live in Seattle now. Actually, just moved to the east side of Seattle, Kirkland.
Kirkland, beautiful. I love Kirkland.
Yeah, very green.
Well, what got you going in politics? Now we got you out of Spokane. You've, with your business connections, moved to the west side, and now politics. That's a big jump.
Mm-hmm. I would say the jump really happened just through, many situations in life, eventually sending you that in that direction. There was a jump-off point, though, a couple of years ago. I was on a phone call with my brother, and we were discussing the elections at that time. And, the different people running, people going for uncontested seats that were just unfit for positions. And we were just appalled by the situation. We were just taken back. We couldn't believe this is who we have running such a large part of our society, because it's so important in daily life. And all too often we think that government is just whatever's handed to us.
But it was the quality of the candidates that put you off?
The quality of candidates and their purpose.
What they had in mind.
Yeah. I think far too few good people run for office. And I think many people, not all, obviously, but many people run for office for the wrong reasons.
Has it been pointed out to you that being a rookie running for U.S. Senator has got some problems attached to it, just in terms of money being raised by your opponents, or perhaps even how you might fare in a debate or in something where scrutiny of the individuals are compared one to the other?
Yeah, obviously that's possible. You go for anything. If you're going against someone who's an 18-year incumbent to a position, it's going to be very difficult to be as polished on every single topic for that position. But my plan is to always revert back to policy. What is my agenda? What's my purpose? Who am I speaking for? Who are the people that I represent? And keep on representing them. Not jump ship on that to pick a fight with the incumbent, but just stay focused on what my purpose is.
The issues to you include a number of things, but higher wages, access to the higher education among them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about your favorite. What would you say would be your pet project?
I would say my favorite is education. Systemically in our society, so many issues can be traced back to education, inequality, the food deserts, crime rates. If you overlay those things on a map with education, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a direct correlation with lower education rates and every other issue we face.
So that's number one, only because of the way it follows an individual through life. A good education always pays off.
Mm-hmm. And these days, if you get a good education, you get a great education, and you hop into an industry, that industry may be gone in 10 years.
Right.
So we got to have a system that's ready to re-educate you in 10 years to get you back into the market. We have so many people that went to school, they got a great degree, and now that degree is worthless because the market has changed so dramatically. And
no official means by which someone can be re-educated, they'd have to go back to school on their own, really.
Yeah. And it's stigmatized. So a lot of people don't want to go back to school.
Did you talk to anyone who's currently in politics before you decided to run? Someone who gave you any advice?
Just professors.
Yeah. What did they say? Did they encourage you or discourage you?
I would say more encouraged me than not. They've, I guess warned me of the bumpy road ahead, and I could see that as well. When you're going up against a giant, it's It's a David and Goliath situation.
How many people running against you right now?
One dropped out, so it would be 28 against me right now.
28?
28.
28 individuals going for...
Yeah, so the most people who have ever run for this position. If that says one thing to me, it says Washington has spoke. It says, we want change.
And what sort of change do you think they want? They want someone more conservative, more liberal, more attentive, more equal to their individual needs?
More progressive. I think, well, number one, I think there's a lot of fiscally conservative liberals out there. I think the people of the state want education. They want health care. And these are issues that need to be handled on a national level. We can take them on as a state. California is trying to take on some of these issues as a state, but it's very difficult when a good portion of the funding for education or for health care come from federal resources.
And states are cutting education budgets constantly.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get around that so that they can be adequately funded?
So with our government right now, we have a massive pool of money floating around. We need to readjust our budget through many government departments and figure out what's important for us to spend money on. Systemically speaking, for many of our issues, education is massively important. We need an education system that meets the economy of today rather than the economy of 50 or 60 years ago. If you get a K through 12 education right now and you get out of school, well, you ain't getting much.
You're just beginning.
Yeah. And that's where we as society, that's where we leave our kids. We're all connected. We're a brother's keeper, and this is where we leave someone on the doorstep of the rest of their life. So we need to readdress that and be willing to educate and re-educate to make sure we can keep people as producing products in society.
Growing up as you did near Spokane, you know about the importance of agriculture to the state because you grew up there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's tariffs going on right now that are harming the agriculture exports to the state and maybe conceivably our ability to import what we need too. How do we get around those?
I think eventually we need to move to international trade markets with non-subsidized industries. We need to keep it as fair as possible for people to want to do business with us and for us to want to do business with other countries. We need to relieve ourselves of trading in the subsidized industries and crops.
I'm not sure what that means to the apple and the cherry farmer.
It doesn't mean much because we as cherry and apple farmers compete on a fairly level playing field. They're not heavily subsidized industries, and we're just simply growing where the dirt is fertile and we're able to export. But having the subsidized crops mixed into the market, then if caught in a trade war, these industries who are not doing harm to other markets can catch the repercussions.
And so the strength of agriculture in Washington, in your mind, is steady?
Yeah. I think it is a great thing for Washington that we have so many small farms compared to the mega farm industries of the South, and that gives us more sustainability in the long run.
One of the things that you mentioned and I'm working off a list of topics that you provide on your own website called Clean Energy Economy. And obviously the future of our economy is based on clean energy. But what do we do to make it profitable and to make it desirable?
Well, it's going to take some creativity. And I would wrap into that the clean energy economy, any type of economy that has to do with repurposing materials through the recycling system, right down the line. So if we, amass piles of plastic bottles, we got to have somewhere for those to go. As far as the strict energy is concerned, Washington has great green energy compared to many states. But we need to continually foster it for the nation. Ultimately, we would look for the nation to follow in Washington's footsteps.
You're married, right?
Fiance.
What did you say to your fiance about running for U.S. Senator? Or maybe I should say, what did she say to you? But either one will do.
She is one amazingly supportive person. Without her, this wouldn't be possible for me to keep the schedule I'm keeping and to manage everything we have going. She is an absolutely phenomenal person that has been an anchor through this whole process.
Running for office is a full-time job. What are you doing with your real job?
I'm doing this.
Okay.
Yeah. I have other businesses that I manage more so when I need a break from this, but I also have partnered with some wonderful people in those who are able to bear the burden of management.
You want to talk about those businesses? How you got your beginning? How you got your...
The beginning in business came from the School of Hard Knocks, honestly. I've been an entrepreneur since a very young age. I believe I got my first business license before I was 18, but I look back and I don't even know how that was possible. But you know, it's been a rough road at times, and it's, you know, learning from mistakes and keep on moving. I think most entrepreneurs know, or, you know, would agree that it's really just the challenge to keep moving sometimes.
And entrepreneurs sometimes, don't they have contact with several parts of the world, making their own businesses run, so they know how society as a whole runs in a way, perhaps better than someone might.
Yeah, and you see many sides of society, especially if you're an entrepreneur that has been through different types of businesses, and you're interacting with people from, you know, the spectrum of society, really. Rather than, you know, just going into one position, you meet the same people every day.
I noticed on your website you've raised over $100,000 from contributors, and I thought that's quite impressive. Are you impressed?
Yeah, very.
Did you expect that kind of money to be in your coffers at this point?
You know, as far as fundraising, we didn't really know what to expect because it's our first go around at it. We can look at the incumbent and see what she's fundraised, but she's got an aristocratic donor pool. Our donor pool, or the type of people who don't typically donate to political campaigns. Those people who are just trying to balance the checkbook for their month. That's the type of people who we're representing and the type of people who are contributing to the campaign. So really, any donations that have come in, we've been amazed, and we're just overwhelmed by the support and, you know, grateful for it.
With how many competitors?
28.
28?
Mm-hmm.
With 28 people running for the office that you're running for, which ones do you think you're closest to, or are you a separate entity from all of them in your mind, even those in your same party?
I would say I'm fairly separate. As far as relatable in decision-making, probably Maria Cantwell would be the most similar. Where I differ from her, though, is my willingness to take action on education and on healthcare, and also on my willingness to bridge the divide that's grown so wide in our country.
What is the Senator Cantwell doing that you would do differently? And you've mentioned some things here, but something specific.
So, number one, I'm a supporter of healthcare as a right or as a public service. A Medicare for all type of system.
Right.
We spend far too much on healthcare to not have everyone covered. I believe ultimately in the big picture, we could come out with a net savings by providing healthcare. It'll take a couple of years to realize, maybe it'll take 20 years to realize. And many times we're nearsighted, so that's tough to bite that bullet. But I do believe it'll pay off in the big picture. One issue that I see also with her is the tribal party politics and unwillingness to work with the other side or define the things that we do agree on and work on those. I'm a firm believer that there's many things we agree on. We got to focus on those, refocus on those, and over time there's going to be less things that we disagree on. But in the process, we can further society and we can help out the masses of people.
It seems like the people who have served the longest in Washington are the ones that are the most polarized or dependent to the degree on their party that they can't walk their own way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I see that, and I wouldn't always blame it on them. I think you come So you go in this position and you spend a lot of your time in Washington, D.C. around the other politicians. And I think over time, it's just the system. It gets you disconnected from.
You become desensitized to why you're there.
Yeah, desensitized to that, desensitized to the feelings and the state of the people. You're stuck in your bubble, and it's hard to see outside of them.
What are the challenges that face a new senator, just simply in terms of experience? Where to be, where to vote, where to eat, where's your office,
Yeah,
who you caucus with?
And without question, I would seek advising on that instantly. Even through this process, anything that I don't have the knowledge that I believe I should have on, I instantly seek advising. I try to find an subject matter expert in whatever it is and thoroughly research it. And I think it would be the same type of situation moving into that. You'd have to look back at history and see how people have done it before and make movement where you can and seek advising where you can't.
Is there a current U.S. Senator from any state that perhaps you modeled yourself on?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And he's had some problems even with his own party. If you think he's a Democrat,
yeah.
Not so if you think he's an independent.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you think of yourself as, an independent who happens to be a Democrat?
Yeah, maybe more so. I think we're all a little bit of everything. I think that's one of the problems when you have to put a color on it or you have to put a party name on it. It says, oh, well, because you're a Democrat, now you believe in X, Y, and Z, and because you're a Republican, now you believe in, this is your belief system now. You have to adopt all of it. Well, who says you have to adopt all of it? Because I'm a Democrat doesn't mean I agree with every other Democratic leader out there, or doesn't mean that I don't have, fiscally conservative views, or that my ideology on helping society aligns with every other Democrat's.
So you're a bit of a hybrid.
I would say so.
In terms of what your policies happen to be and what your belief system is.
Yeah, and I would say Bernie Sanders is as well. I see what he did as far as going a Democrat for a presidential race. I think the way our system is set up, it would be very, very, very difficult to impossible to do otherwise.
Well, he met a lot of resistance that he probably didn't expect, that had nothing to do with the Republicans or the people running against him.
Yeah. I think that the Democrats put their money on the wrong horse.
And that also depends on how many people are running. Now, in your case, you have 28 candidates, so God knows what's going to happen from that race. But you have to be prepared for the fact that so many candidates can fragment the race in unexpected ways. Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever painted a picture to you of how many different ways this race could go?
I picture it going obviously several ways, but the Republican vote is going to be split up. There's so many Republican candidates. I think 13 as we're sitting right now, or maybe 12. I think one dropped out. So that's going to divide up a lot of that vote. As far as the Democratic vote, it's going to be centered on just a few candidates. The power of incumbency, sadly does not serve our democracy, but it does have power. So people vote incumbent many times. So that'll capture a lot of the vote. But on the Democratic side, we're splitting up the lion's share of the votes in the state. So if I'm looking to get past the primaries, I'm looking at about 400,000 votes.
This always happens to me. I run out of time. So forgive me for that, Clint. Clint Tannehill is our guest. He's a candidate for U.S. Senate. Would you spend the last minute, please, asking the people listening for their vote?
Well, I guess before I ask you for your vote, I would ask that you go to our website, clinttannehill.com, follow on the social media, and follow along for a couple weeks. See if it's for you. See if our message resonates with you, and understand what the campaign's all about, and become invested in the sense that it does represent you. And if it does represent you, then I would ask for your vote, and I ask for all the support that you have. I appreciate you.
Thanks for coming in. Clint Tannehill, candidate for U.S. Senate. He's a rookie, and he's running for U.S. Senate and asking for your vote.